All right. Joining us now is an analytics expert for NFL Network, Cynthia Frelund. Cynthia, thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Nice to see you. How are you?
I'm doing good. A little tired, but I'm good.
I know you got that. This is an early morning for you. Appreciate it. Us old people get up early.
Well, you're in California, right?
Yeah,
So it's 6 a.m. for you, right?
it's early. Yeah, got to get the day started.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump right into it. So, as more of an analytics expert, I can imagine this is going to be very different than most people we ask this question to. But what was your journey like getting to this point at NFL Network and all that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, I was I was a biology major in undergrad, so it was clearly not a linear path. I didn't really know about I didn't think about broadcast aspirations until quite a bit later. But I went to college in Boston. I'm from Michigan. Then I went to um, after school, I moved to Chicago and I became a banker, which is I was a math person, so it made sense. And then I decided to go to business school. Business school led me to the NFL corporate office. The NFL corporate office introduced me to a bunch of coaches, and I worked on projects that were really cool, combining finance and play on the field. And then I went to Disney after business school. Well after the NFL. Disney owns ESPN. I got a chance to first work in California for like bigger Disney, and then I went to ESPN working on innovation. At that time, then Paul DePodesta got hired by the Browns, and analytics became more of a focus of content. And then as DraftKings came about, we kind of had this confluence of like we have a way to talk about analytics on TV that's interesting and drives a lot of value for ESPN. And poof, then that happened. And then I went back to the NFL Network, which is where I sort of I started at the NFL, like I said, right after banking after in business school. So it was kind of this full circle, and now I'm at the NFL.
All right. So you mentioned you're not the type of broadcaster that we've seen of football fan. I mean, I would assume you're a football fan your whole
I'm a
life.
huge fan. Yep.
Yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
not now. Obviously, you're a
Yeah.
fan now, but like, I meant like your whole life, like coming into it, like, you weren't always the biggest football fan, but it just added all up. And the way the game is now, it's analytics.
Well,
Then
yeah. I mean, look, I grew up in Michigan, so I grew up where East Lansing, which is where Michigan State is, and I grew up a big Lions fan. Had a bunch of, everyone in Michigan is a pretty big, Saturday you tailgate for college and Sunday you watch the Lions. So always been a big fan of the sport, and I loved all of the like fun that goes around it, right? And then I learned how I probably had a bit more exposure just because of where I grew up. I really learned how the game was played, and same thing in college. I was always very aware, and I was very interested in it always. So, I was also interested in basketball too. So I really liked watching both of those. And it just was able to transition that into talking to coaches about it. And that taught me how to watch film, and watching film changes the entire experience. And then from there, it just kind of all the math part came together all at once.
right. So slowly, I would say over the last 5 to 7 years or so, we've seen analytics take more and more and more of a prominence in the NFL. And for those fans, and I know teams are watching this, but for fans
Sure,
or
they are. You don't know that. They're
you
watching.
never know, you never know, that are not sold in analytics, like make the pitch for analytics and why it's needed in football in particular.
Look, it's just like anything else. The more you understand what it can do, the more value a team could find in using it, right? So if you want to know a project, for example, how much do I pay a running back, and how much do I pay this particular position, or which rookie should I, or which potential rookie should I target? The better you can create like a plan for how you'd like to use that rookie, or what you anticipate the fit being between the rookie and the team, how all of those things together, the more you can conceptualize that, the better off you end up becoming, right? So
Right.
analytics is one of the tools in the tool belt, similar to like a scout. A scout will go around and watch all of the different college games and report back. And then from that, then you have, a cascade of different opinions about a player. Just the same thing as analytics. It can show, these are the things about a player, the attributes about a player that we're looking for. And these are the players with the resume to be able to achieve that.
Right. I mean, I remember as a Ravens fan, I mean, we've been good for a while, but I remember when Eric DaCosta came in, his introductory press conference, one of the questions was, what are your thoughts on analytics? And I remember him being he was a very big guy for analytics. They said he was bigger than Ozzie Newsome was. And I've seen him kind of take that a little bit, where it's been more of an analytical approach. I mean, look at what we're doing now. I mean, it's very...
I would say that the Ravens have the best analytics team in the entire league. The Ravens analytics, the people who work in it are the gold standard for the NFL, for sure.
It's what I like to hear as a Ravens fan, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And Eric's done a great job of, he hires really good people and he sets the expectations and they know what they're supposed to be doing. That's in any job. When you have to go get a real job just kidding. The more your boss can tell you the expectations that they have for you, the better your chance of being able to fulfill those obligations. Right. So Eric being clear and having a good plan and being able to use it, it's a way better scenario than other teams.
Yeah. What do you think the future of football analytics is? Do you think it's going to be more of not necessarily the Ravens scheme, but the Ravens way of doing it in where it's a lot of analytics, or do you think it's a different way, but still using it? Like, how do you think analytics in the future is going to be for the NFL? Because it definitely seems like that's where the game is going. It's going into more of an analytical thing.
So I would say that the game's already been there too. They might not have been called analytics like in the pure word analytics, but the analytics has been there. Bill Belichick, some people call it quality control. Bill Belichick had Ernie Adams forever. Bill Walsh talked about it. He looked at first downs and looked at specific angles of the game. It might not have been called analytics or data science, but this type of strategy has been used and implemented for a long time. So it's more about defining it and using things like techniques like coding, which is software development, to create programs so that instead of doing it slowly, you can do it faster, and you can do more, and you can find deeper insights as we have more technology available to provide that potential, that solution. Then we also have more opportunity to use it to create a competitive advantage. So ultimately, it's been around for a while. It's just being called something different. And the software development aspect is really supercharging everything so that you're being able to now use it just, game speed. Literally, Ravens have a guy who does, play calling. I mean, obviously, you can't use any computer or aided system during the game. That's against the rules. But they create a full spreadsheet of potential opportunities. And as the play keeps developing, then you know what? They have a better understanding. And then coach can say, any coach who has as many play calling, years of experience as John Harbaugh will be able to say, okay, give me a little bit. Okay, how many times did they run zone? Did they show zone or what? You know what I'm saying? And then he'll be able to take his gut and then marry it with. So he'll take his eyeballs, his gut, and then he'll get a little bit more information and help refine the decision. It's all about how fast and accurate you can make decisions.
All right. So, Lamar's a freak, but
yeah.
Do you think that the future of football, not necessarily because of analytics, but analytics would have a huge part of it, is more of a faster quarterback, not Lamar, but a more mobile, faster quarterback?
So, the whole world's about supply and demand, right? So, as you have to look at college, and then you have to look what's coming up in high schools and all of these different situations. I would argue. So, what I think the future is the strategy that the Ravens have taken, which means marrying the production and type of quarterback and type of capability that Lamar Jackson has with the personnel that they surround him with in the context of the plays that are called, right? If you plopped Lamar Jackson onto the Lions, my team, Matthew Stafford's a very different type of quarterback than him. Right. Who knows if he'd be as successful? Not taking anything away from Lamar Jackson, but the entirety of the whole situation works together in everyone's favor. That's why it's so smart. So I would argue that the future of successful football teams is aligning the personnel that they have. Obviously, it all starts with the quarterback, but aligning the personnel that's available to them with what they're trying to execute. So, I think that a faster quarterback is coming because typically in college, we're seeing more of that being executed, meaning there's more supply of faster, more mobile quarterbacks because those are the types of systems that these colleges are running. And that's because the high school pools this. So it's more about supply and demand than it is trying to only breed for a specific prototype. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the only thing is, we've seen in college the same type of thing before. Do you think, but they've been changing positions. Do you think the quarterback position in particular is going to become more of an athlete, though? Because that's what I've been
Sure. I mean, I think look, when it comes to the quarterback position, I think there's a lot of things that are going on. There's rules that are completely different from the past that make the quarterback position have a different set of attributes that are, like it switches which the most important attributes are, right? Just a bit, not significant. Obviously there are still some things that remain the same, but at the end of the day, I think that you also have to remember, like, the O lines also come from college, and the defense also comes from college, and the skill positions, they also come from college. So it's kind of a marriage of like as we're seeing so much West Coast offense in college, or air raid offense, where there's not a lot of there's not a lot of layers to peel out of that onion. I think there's going to be a harder transition to a true NFL style of play. And because of that, I think that some teams will have have to adopt a simpler offense, because look at how coaches are hired and fired. The bad teams get rid of their coach every 2 or 3 years. And now you got a whole new system coming in. So sure, I actually think that does probably benefit, like Deshaun Watson helps Bill O'Brien keep his job, because Deshaun Watson makes it happen, right? Obviously he came from Clemson. He's no longer a new player, but his mobility, his ability to create, like, that's special, and that helps with keeping continuity on the team. But at the end of the day, there's only so many Deshaun Watsons, and sometimes you have to use a non-Deshaun Watson option, and they don't all turn into be Lamar Jackson. They don't all turn into be Patrick Mahomes. They don't all turn into being Deshaun Watson. So it's good. There's going to be a mix of what works for people, and it's going to be whoever's strategy aligns with the personnel that they have and the play calling that they choose.
Yeah, and Bill O'Brien, I'm hoping he knows that the only reason why I think he still has a job is Deshaun Watson, because.
So I'm like a O'Brien. Like, I think I like him more than most. It's not a. It's. I think he's like a good human being. So I cheer for good human beings. Like, great dad, great, just a good human being. But it's interesting because I think they believe their strategy is going to work this year. Right. It's hard for all of us to. I think it's hard for all of us to kind of wrap our heads around, because it would seem that the game is a lot easier if you have DeAndre Hopkins. It's easier to play, but they don't think that they're in a bad spot. Whether or not we do is different. And you gotta. He has been a coach for a while. They did win the division past 2 seasons, so it's not like that we. I don't know. I guess I'm more. Sometimes I think I tend to be like, a little more neutral on him than most.
Yeah, I understand that. I feel like over the years, I am still considering myself more of a fan at this point, but as I've became more into this role, I've started looking at players and like a little bit of like who they are, and there are guys that, as a fan, I feel like I don't like them, but then I see, okay, they're a good guy, I have to root for them.
You'll notice that more and more too. Yep, yeah, that's just what happens. It's just what happens.
Right. Yeah, I see what you mean by that. So, kind of switching over, but as more of analytics, you are shown players that don't get the spotlight as much. Because that's just what the numbers do, is they're able to highlight guys who can't always get the credit from just watching.
Yep.
Who do you think is, if you could pick one, this is a tough question because there's a lot, but who's the most underrated player in the NFL, do you think?
Interesting. Last year I would have said it was DeMario Davis, but this year he's all pro, so I can no longer say that. But I think probably guys it would be someone who plays like in the middle of the defense that doesn't get like the sack numbers that you might imagine, or the things that fans readily identify with being really exceptional. So like, that's kind of my mental criteria for it. So I look like, I think that like, if you look to see, there's a bunch of guys in Minnesota that fall into that category. There's a bunch of, the Ravens have just a dearth of talent. So there's a lot that could be said about them. I think there's probably Yeah, sheesh. That's a great question, because national media wise versus like team fan base, I always get in trouble because team fan bases are like, we know he's good. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like, that kind of thing. Whereas like, like these smaller, the thing I'm starting to realize is that these players who have like smaller contracts and like slot corners, for example, have huge impacts and nobody ever talks about it, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it's such an like, this is going to sound crazy, and I'm pulling this out of like just thinking about it, but like the Jets slot corner's name's Brian Poole. He signed a $5 million deal this offseason. Like, that's a sick contract for a number of reasons. But the most important reason is the fact that he produces at like top 3 as far as slot corners are concerned rates. And he's getting paid $5 million, which is a low number. So those are the types of players, like you need a lot of those guys on your team. But I guess I'm just thinking, if I just had to pick one player who's like totally, I think you're like, I understand that Green Bay Packers fans knew about, the Smith brothers who aren't brothers, but I
Yeah.
think Zadarius Smith didn't get enough love. I don't think people talked about him enough.
As a Ravens fan, I didn't give him enough love
I
in
know.
year.
I know. I know.
I was like, no, he's not that good. He had one good year. He comes in Green Bay and balls out.
Yep. Exactly. So that might be, but Green Bay fans will be like, you know what? What are you talking about? We know he's a stud, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know. National media doesn't talk about him like the same way they talk about like Aaron Donald or, any of the other Khalil Mack in his division, So I'm not sure.
It's the same thing like Zadarius Smith, where it's a guy like everyone knows they're good, but no one gives him enough credit. Same thing as a guy like Chandler Jones, the guy I always mention. Is people have no idea how
Buda Baker with Chandler Jones. Yeah, like Buda Baker is one of those guys too, that safety. Like obviously he's super versatile. Buda Baker for the Cardinals. You know what? That your Chandler Jones made me think of Buda Baker. So thank you for that, because that's. I think maybe I'm gonna switch my answer because Buda Baker does not get enough love.
All right. Okay, so this is going to be our last question.
Sure.
This is kind of the way we like to wrap up all of our interviews. Is what is a piece of advice you would give to aspiring sportscasters like me or any other people who would be watching this? Like, what a piece of advice you would give?
Well, first of all, I gotta commend you. Your confidence is great. You're like on it. You know what you're talking about. You're prepared, and you know what? Like half of being able to do this job in any capacity. I'm a specialist, so I don't have to be as good, right? Because I do something very special, so that I get a chance to cultivate like how well I present the information. And it's tricky to present math, so I'll cut myself a little slack there. But at the end of the day, it's about connecting and having fun, because God forbid we have some fun with football, right? Like it's been a long COVID situation, but the whole point is like on Sunday we all get together, we all get a chance to thoroughly enjoy or commiserate. I'm a Lions fan, so we obviously have some sad days, but at the end of the day, it's community, and it's about connection and being able to help someone connect with something that they love. I mean, you're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep finding your voice. Keep, just honestly, like just keep being curious and interested and keep looking to get better. The only thing that I ever like in life, I started being on TV quite late, as far as, I was 31 years old the first time I went on TV. That's pretty old. Don't tell people my age, but I'm an old lady. But but that was nerve wracking. I'm an academic. I was a banker. Like I was very like, uptight banker, went to business school, got another degree in data science. Like I'm a nerd, right? So learning how to do these things, like I went and took voice lessons. I went and took, because I was on TV with Michael Irvin, and he's such a loud, boisterous personality. I needed to show up, right? I needed to get better. And I saw that there's a constant, I had to constantly get better. And by the way, I went and took improv classes because I had to get over myself. So those were things, I was a nerdy math person, an introvert, and like, just get over yourself. So I had to like do the things to keep being curious. And, I could have tried to like, be like, oh, but I have these fancy degrees, blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't matter. If you're not connecting with people and telling the story and making it fun and making it informative and entertaining, who cares, right? Exactly. So the point is to keep, even when you're an old dog, you still learn new tricks, like you got to keep being interested and keep cultivating it. And that's not just for now that you're starting, this is forever, like keep doing it, just reps and keep asking for help, and people will help you.
All right. I said last question. I got to ask you this real quick.
No, you got
Lions this year. What do you think about them?
4th in the division? I mean,
All right, we're in agreement there. We're in agreement. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a long year for 'em.
I mean, listen, the best thing about the Lions, if you ever get a chance to go to Ford Field when you're, in the booth calling games, go get a gyro. It sounds weird, but there's a lot of great Greek food in Detroit. And at the stadium, they have amazing gyros. So there you go. That's a Ford Field gyro. When you're old enough, beer and a gyro, do it.
All right.
File that away. That one's for
All
you.
right.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
All right. There we go.